Warm greetings of the day. Today we would be dealing with another topic, the sexual dimorphism in fishes and crustaceans. Okay, so reproduction, it is a major innate process that would happen in all living organisms. And in case of fishes, all the living fishes in this world, they would exhibit different types of sexuality, and that would be like the unisexual fishes, the bisexual, the hermaphroditism, and parthenogenetic fishes, and so on. So these topics we had discussed earlier in the previous classes. So today now we would be discussing about sexual dimorphism. So now what do you understand by the term sexual dimorphism? So as the word suggests, there would be two different characteristics, right? So the morphological characteristics would be of two different types, and these different types would be for both the male as well as the female. Okay, so sexual dimorphism is a phenomenon that is exhibited by most of the fishes, wherein you could actually distinguish the male and the female species using the secondary sexual characteristics. Okay, so the primary sexual characteristics, as you know, that would be the reproductive organs, the testes as well as the ovary, wherein that you could distinguish the species only through by means of maybe through dissection and that sort. But then the secondary sexual characteristics helps us to distinguish the male and the female species by mere morphological characteristics. Okay, so the sexes could be distinguished from each other. That is, a male could be separately distinguished from that of the female. And see, these secondary sexual characteristics that I had said, that maybe in certain species that those characteristics are discernible throughout the lifespan. Whereas in certain other species, the secondary sexual characteristics that would be discernible only during the breeding season. To say that these characteristics would be well prominent only at the time of the breeding season. That is to say, the male and the female species or the sexes could be distinguished only during the breeding season in certain species. Why do you have these secondary sexual characteristics? See, I said this secondary sexual characteristics, that is what make the fish sexually dimorphic. Okay, so these sexual characteristics would help in the recognition of the opposite sex among the members of that species. Okay, so these species would be able to distinguish the male and the female. Okay, so this secondary sexual characteristics that would also help in the process of copulation, as in as for example, see the case of the sexual embrace in certain fishes, and it would also help in the process of transfer of spermatozoa, and this spermatozoa would be transferred from the male to the female during the time of the breeding. Okay, so this particular characteristics would also facilitate the parental care in certain species. Okay, now I was talking about the sexual dimorphism. So here we would be now learning about how to distinguish the male and the female in case of fishes, shrimps, prawns, as well as crabs. So now first starting with that of fish. In most of the species, the sexually dimorphic species, both the male and the female species, they would show a difference in size of the fish. Okay, so the male would be of different size and the female would be of different size. Say, for example, in case of tilapia, the males are known to be larger than that of the females, and that is the reason why we go for monosex tilapia culture, wherein the growth of males would be much faster than that of the females. Okay, and in certain cases, see, for example, the major calves, in those species, the females would be much larger than the males. And see, in certain cases, there are the dwarf males, wherein these fishes would be much smaller than that of the females, for example, that of the salmons or maybe that of the anglerfish. Okay. Now, the next characteristic would be the length or shape or texture of fins. So, this. Fishes, they would just exhibit the different texture, or maybe the shape, or maybe the length would be different in case of males as well as females. Say, for example, in the case of Lebiodiro, the dorsal fin, the anterior part of the dorsal fin, in case of males, it would be turned out into a lobe, which is rather absent in case of females. And the most common example, which you might be familiar with, is the gonopodium in case of the swordtail fish, wherein, see, the last ray of the anal fin is much projected into what is known as the gonopodium. Okay, so this feature is absent in case of females, right? Next one would be the coloration. So coloration, this coloration, the species, or rather to say the males and the females, they would exhibit the process what is known as a dichromatism, wherein the males would be having a different range of color rather than when compared to the females. And in certain cases, as in that of tilapia, this color difference would be exhibited only during the breeding season. But the most common example that you might be familiar with is that of the Bettus plantains or the fighter fish, wherein the males would exhibit brilliant colors and the females would be, normally colored. It's not that bright in color. So this would help us distinguish between the male as well as the female species. Now, another characteristic that would help us identify the male from the female would be that is the genital papilla. So the genital papilla, as you can see from the picture, that would be mostly long and pointed in case of males, and it would be more or less rounded in the case of females. And this is a most common feature that is exhibited by species like Clarius, Heteroneustes, etc. Now, there is another yet characteristic, what is known as the ovipositor. So, see, you can see from the picture a long tube that is being, that emanates from the body of the fish. And so, these are the bitterlings, wherein at the time of the breeding season, the female fish would develop a long tube, and that is known as the ovipositor, meaning this would help the fish to insert the eggs or lay the eggs into the mantle cavity of the mussels through the inhalent siphon of the mussel. Okay, so this particular feature would help the fish in laying the eggs. Next one would be the shape of the head. So shape of the head, the shape of the head would vary with the sexes, that is a male and the female in case of certain species. Say for example, in the case of salmons, the snout would be protruded into a snout, the snout would be produced into a hook-like structure, which is absent in case of female. So these are certain features which would help us differentiate the male from the female using the secondary sexual characteristics. See, now we just move on to the next group, and those are the shrimps. Shrimps, as you know, say for example, the Penaeus monodon, Penaeus indicus, Dobsoni, and so on. So these particular species, the shrimps, they are the crustaceans, and their habitat is a marine waters. Okay, so rather than the freshwater prawns, the prawns which are or which is found to live in the fresh water, and the shrimps are known to have the marine habitat. Okay, so how do you go for distinguishing the male and the female shrimps? Right? So the first foremost characteristic would be the petasma. So you might be familiar with petasma. So this particular feature, the petasma, it is seen only in case of males. So petasma is a structure that is formed by the first pleopod. So the first pleopod in case of males, they are just joined together to form what is known as a petasma. Actually, the entopoid of the pleopod joins together to form the petasma. So it is very much clear from the picture. So this would help us distinguish the male from the female. This particular structure, the petasma, that is absent in case of females. Next one would be the thelecum. So thelecum is a secondary sexual characteristic that is present in case of the female shrimps. So thelecum, it is a structure, see from the picture it's very much clear, it is a structure that is being present in the thoracic sterna between the periopods 4 and 5. Okay, so there are the periopods, or else we call it as a walking legs. So in between these walking legs, there is the thelecum. So that is a secondary sexual characteristic which is found in the case of female shrimps, and that is absent in case of males. So males, on the other hand, possess the petasma, that is on the first pleopod. The endopodoid of the first pleopod would fuse together to form the petasma. Now there is an appendix masculina. So I said that in case of males, the first pleopod, the endopodoid of the first pleopod fused to form the petasma, whereas in case of second pleopod, there is what is known as the appendix masculina in addition to appendix interna. So the females do not have this appendix masculina. So this would help us distinguish the male from the female shrimps. The next one would be the gonopore. So that is the opening through which the sex products would ooze out. And in case of males, the gonopore opening is found in case of the fifth periopod or the fifth walking leg. Whereas in case of females, the gonopore opening is situated on the third periopod or the third walking leg. So this would help us distinguish the male and the female shrimp. Next would be the size. In case of shrimps, the female shrimps would be much larger than the males of the same age group. Okay, so these are certain characteristics which would help us distinguish the male shrimp from the female shrimp. Now we just move on to the next category, and those are the prawns. So as it said, prawns. The most common example would be the giant freshwater prawn, that is a Macrobrachium rosenbergi, and they are found to live in freshwater. So how are you going to distinguish a male prawn from that of a female prawn? So the first characteristic would be the size. So earlier, while we dealt with the shrimps, we dealt with the size. So in case of shrimps, I said the female shrimps would be much larger than that of the male shrimps when we just take the same age group. But here the case is different. The males would be much larger than that of the females, and the second walking legs would also be much larger than that of the females. Now coming to the second characteristic, that is the cephalothorax. The cephalothorax would be much broader in case of males, and in case of females it would be much narrower, whereas the abdomen would be much slender in case of male prawns. Now, the next characteristic would be the appendix masculina. So, as we said in case of shrimps, the same case would apply here. Appendix masculina, that is present in case of male prawns, but that is absent in case of female prawns. Next one would be the abdominal segment, which we are to look into to distinguish the male prawn from that of the female prawn. So when you just go look into the thoracic sternum of males of the first abdominal segment, you could feel a hump-like structure, a rigid structure in the first abdominal segment. So it is there being marked in the picture. So there is a hump-like structure, a rigid structure in the first abdominal segment of the males, but that is absent in case of females. Now the next one would be the reproductive setae. So the reproductive setae is absent in case of males, whereas in case of females, the reproductive setae are present both in the thorax as well as the periapod. So these are being classified as the ovipositing setae, which would guide in the eggs into place, and also the ovigerous setae, which would be anchoring the eggs. And there is also the sperm receptacle in case of females, which is to hold the sperms, whereas this is absent in case of male prawns. Now we just move to the next category, and those are the crabs. So crabs you might be very much familiar with. The major examples would be the mud crabs, the Scylla serrata, the Scylla trancubarica, and so on. The crabs, how do you distinguish a male crab from a female crab? The first and foremost feature would be the abdominal flap. So you might have seen the abdominal flap. See, it is in the picture. So the abdominal flap would be pressed against the ventral side of the crab, and in case of males, this would be much slender and triangular, whereas in case of females, the abdominal flap would be more or less semicircular. So that would help us distinguish the male crab from the female crab. Another feature would be that of the appendages. So in case of males, when you just open this abdominal flap, you could see the pleopods. Okay, so the appendages, there is a distinction between the abdominal appendages in case of males as well as female crab. So the abdominal appendages in case of males, there would be just two numbers, and whereas in case of females, the abdominal segments from second to fifth would hold these pleopods, and the major purpose of these abdominal appendages is to hold the eggs during at the time of breeding season, when the eggs are getting attached to the body of the crabs. And the next characteristic which would help us distinguish the male crab from the female crab is that of the claws. Very much prominent characteristic, wherein the males would have much larger claws when compared to that of females. Right. So these are certain secondary sexual characteristics which would help us distinguish male from female, maybe the fish or the crustaceans, and this would help us, aid the process of induced maturation, induced breeding in case of all these fish, crustaceans, as well as mollusks. Thank you.